off, Joe, congrats on your nomination for the CMA Award for Industry Service Provider of the Year for your mortgage nerd underwriting training.
Thanks. I don't know. I'm pretty excited about it, pretty happy about it. To be recognized is great, even just to be on the list. So thank you to those that nominated me for it. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a little thing I've been doing in the background here, on top of brokering for the last few years. And so we've had, I think I've had about 1,200 people come through the training so far. So it's been well received. Nobody's told me anything bad news bears about it yet. So that's kind of nice. No terrible feedback or anything. But so yeah, so excited. And hopefully it goes all right.
Just a
Hopefully I
little
win.
thing.
I don't know.
Well, just a little thing had snowballed into a big thing. And if you guys haven't heard of it, if you're in need of underwriting training, Jill has this big brain that is super detail oriented. I don't even begin to understand how she thinks, but she's really, really excellent at breaking down super complicated concepts and training you guys on how to do the same. So if you're ever in need of that training, definitely go and give it a Google. And but beyond that, Jill also does many other things, including being co-host of the almost 8,000 member strong now newbie mortgage agent Facebook group. And Jody Hiltz as well is online today, who is her co-host. So you guys started that group, what, how long ago now?
Well, Jody started it in 2019, and then I just was her first member in the group.
Oh,
So
okay.
we just have been sort of, it's funny, you call it a co-host, and I'm like, I don't feel like we're hosts, but we're admins, right? We just do the behind the scenes work there. But
How
yeah,
did
that
you
we
do
started
that?
that page back in, I think it was in 2019. And
Yeah.
really it started off with it was a group of us that were all new at the time, and we wanted a place where we could chat with each other. And then other new agents just kept joining, and now look at us, I guess. Hey.
It's such a great like community forum for new agents to come together and be amongst other new agents and get that support and ask really difficult questions. And the reason why I guess I just kind of assumed you guys were co-hosts is because you're not just admins, but you're actually chiming in and answering questions on it and really creating that community like atmosphere. So brava, well done on that. Beyond that, also you're a branch team leader on the Borley team.
Yeah, so I am with Team Borley, and shout out to all my Team Borleys on here today, which probably is half this call. But but yeah, I am one of the mentors in the team, and so I do have a pod of about, I think I'm at 17 or 18 agents right now. I usually hover around 20 agents that I mentor. So my pod works on about 250 to 300 deals a year. And I broker my own business as well. So I've been closing on average in the sort of 60 to 90 files a year for the last few years. So I'm brokering that as well myself too. Yeah, I don't know. I just do a few things, right?
How do you find the time? And then
I don't
also,
have any kids. It's a lot easier to find the time when you have no kids or a real social life at all either. So
I would argue against that. But you're also a multi-time Mortgage Professionals Canada National Conference speaker too.
yeah, yeah, you know what? The public speaking thing is something that I've actually, I didn't think that I would enjoy it as much as I do. I mean, most people I think are terrified of public speaking. I grew up speaking publicly, I was in 4-H and stuff when I was a kid. So it's something that I was always sort of exposed to from right around when I was about 9 years old. But I love it. I'm enjoying it more and more. So I like getting out there and speaking and stuff. So
That's great. And I've seen you speak, and I think your sessions are some of the most highly attended at the conference. So honestly,
which I don't know why any of you guys show up for this. I don't actually know what I'm talking about. I'm just really good at pretending like I do or making it sound like I know what I'm talking about, right?
it's the confidence.
Yeah. If that's not a lesson right there, like just go forth with confidence. I'm going to give a small shout out because there's somebody on the call here who's like my number one fan and I love her to pieces. Desiree is on the call, and Des.
I love you so much. I'm
Yeah.
driving.
So Des posts on her Instagram, and every now and then I see an Instagram post where she puts something that I said and she quotes me, and then I'm like, I don't even remember saying that, but when I read them, I'm like, boy, that was real clever of me. Like sometimes, so yeah, sometimes I impress myself with the things that come out of my mouth, right?
I love that. Well, speaking of words that begin with C, confidence, we're going to move on to the actual interview component of it on here. And I have some great questions for you. So we're going to circle around kind of your practices and, we want to understand your processes and just how you've got to be so successful, so detail oriented, and so good at what you do. So first question, we're going to follow the theme of the C's. Could you maybe speak a little bit to the 5 C's of credit and where do you begin with your clients on the discovery in that?
Um, well, this will sound super embarrassing, but I probably should have looked that up in advance. I can't actually remember all 5 of the C's. The one that I think about the most is character, because there's character, capacity, et cetera, right? So we, when we go through, obviously, do our clients qualify? That's a capacity item, right? And that sort of, so some of those C's are sort of answered in the rest of our underwriting of a file. But I'm going to focus on character because this is one that I think we, as brokers, a lot of brokers overlook or don't really dig into as much. And this is actually a really big piece that our lenders are looking into behind the scenes, and that they're evaluating whether or not they think this client overall is. Oh, I love that you just posted those, so I don't feel
Yes.
so stupid.
For
No,
everyone who
but
doesn't
character is a
know,
really big.
for everyone who
Sorry.
doesn't know 5 C's of credit by heart, I put them in the chat so you can.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, so character is the one that I'm going to speak to a little bit here because I'll tell you a couple of stories about it. So I had a client that came to me one time and he had no credit. He was, in his 30s and he had never used a credit card. He paid for everything in cash, right? So he'd never had a loan. He just did everything with his debit card and he never bought anything that he couldn't afford, and so he'd never used credit. He didn't have any credit score and no credit history. He had inherited a large sum of money from his father's passing, and so he wanted to buy himself a house, and he had about 50% down on this. And so we thought, well, let's see if we can make this work, right? And so when we were looking at a file like this, right, number one, I was grabbing 12 months of bank statements from him so that I could evaluate alternative forms of credit, right? I wanted to show proof that he was paying rent on time and, paying his cell phone bill on time, that kind of stuff, right? The cell phone wasn't even reporting to his credit bureau. And so I grabbed, I had his 12 months of bank statements. And because I really wanted to make sure that I was putting the best foot forward for this client, I also just Googled him. I looked him up, right? And I Facebook searched him. I looked up his profile on Facebook. And his Facebook profile, now legal, all of this was legal at the time, but his Facebook profile picture was like a picture of him with a giant bong and a big weed picture in the background. And I'm like, yeah, like buddy works with cash only. He's got a picture of himself on the internet smoking a bong, I'm like, yeah, like that, like if I'm trying to prove to a lender that this guy has a strong character and that he just has never used credit because of his character, right? And they go and search him and the first thing that they see is just pictures of him like smoking a J with, like a Bob Marley poster in the background, right? Like that maybe doesn't speak to the character, right? So I said to the client, I was just like, listen, I'm like, I Googled you, like I looked you up. We're going to go in for this application with the bank. It's the bank that you bank at. We're going to go there. But I have a recommendation. Like, do you want to maybe just change your profile picture on Facebook? And he was like, oh, 100%. And he deleted any picture of him, that was maybe a little questionable. He got a nice, pretty picture, posted where he didn't look, he looked like a much more upstanding citizen of society. He is.
Hair.
Yeah, and I was able to get this guy approved, right? So but this is something that I think, that's the first story that I'll tell you. The second story I'll tell you, I had a client call me and they said to me, hey, like we bank at RBC and our mortgage is up for renewal with RBC and they told us they won't renew us. And I'm like, oh, do you have any missed payments? And they're like, no, we've never missed a mortgage payment. And I was like, okay, well, can you think of any reason why they wouldn't renew you? And they're like, no, I honestly, I can't. We've made all of our payments on time. We're upstanding citizens. Like, I can't think of any reason. While I was on the phone, I Googled her name. And so during this conversation, as I say this, the first thing that comes up, I'm like, okay, so could it possibly have been that your house was raided by the police because of the illegal grow up that you had in your house, and you were charged and convicted of having an illegal grow up in your home? And these guys had owned this was before it was legal. They owned a paraphernalia store that just sold, you know, bongs, right? They obviously they were referred to me by the other client, clearly, right? Yeah. But no, they, you know, and so and she was like, oh yeah, that maybe could be it. And I'm like, right. So they're not going to renew you because of the charges, because you were convicted of having an illegal grow up in the house, right? Now, if I hadn't Googled my client, I would have taken in that application. I would have looked at their credit bureau. I would have looked at the file. Everything would have looked fine. I would have submitted it, and a lender would have Googled that client and come back to me and said, due to the fact that an illegal grow up was in this property from this client and that they were charged with this, we're not going to lend to it. What a waste of time, right? So I think character, I think that's kind of the biggest one from the C's that I would say is take that time and actually look up your client. Like, go look at their social media, go look at their Facebook, their Instagram, or whatever, Google their name, see if there's anything weird about them. This not only does this actually help you with just determining whether or not they actually have good credit worthiness and that there isn't going to be issues with your lender down the line. This also helps you when you're talking to your client, like, you know, their kid, you can see their pictures, you know, they have 2 kids, right? They've got a dog in their family photos, right? You can reference this stuff. It helps you connect with your clients as well, from a sales perspective too, right? So yeah, I mean, yeah, capacity, capital, like capital, do they have money, right? Capacity, can they actually repay this stuff? Collateral, the property that we're going to be securing that against, right? You know, all of that stuff is sort of worked out in our underwriting, but character, I think, is the one piece that we really overlook. There's an example that I give in my training course as well when I go through credit training, of a client that I had her 3 months bank statements for her down payment. And in the course of 1 week in those bank statements, she had been to the liquor store about 28 times. So that was something that, you know, a lender would look at and would consider, right? Does this person have a drinking problem, a gambling problem? Are there other addictions that might cause this person to default on their payments, right? So yeah, your lenders are paying attention to that stuff. So you should be too.
Wow.
Jill, quick question. If somebody discloses to you that they are a gambler, how do you proceed?
Well, that's a hard question, Des. Why you gotta hurt me like that?
How do you proceed?
Because you don't want to judge them, and if they have the money and the clean history and the good credit score, but they've fully disclosed that they have a gambling problem, what do you do?
Yeah, I think if somebody is telling you that they have a gambling problem, they're almost asking you to tell them no, right? Like, if somebody is disclosing that to you, or they're trying to talk to you about their current gambling addiction or gambling issue, right? I would be asking them, do you feel confident that you are prepared for home ownership? Are you confident in your ability to make these payments? Are you confident in your ability to prioritize keeping the money in the bank that you need in order to make these payments? Because if they're telling you that, like, I most of the time it's just hidden and you see it from the bank statements, right? I had a file where the guy said to me, I just had the honest conversation with him about whether he thought he was ready to buy. We talked about his down payment history, and he'd sent me a down payment history, and then we'd done the pre-approval, and then I went to get sort of updated because he was missing a couple months. And so when I got the updated bank statements, and I said to him, I was like, hey, what happened? Like, you had, you know, 10K or whatever in this account, and now you don't, right? Where'd the money go? And he actually said, he's like, oh yeah, like, it was a bad weekend at the casino. And I'm like, you lost $5,000 on the weekend in the casino? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, So I straight up was just like, you're calling me about wanting to purchase a property, wanting to buy a home, and you couldn't prioritize keeping your down payment in the bank. You blew that money at the casino on the weekend. And I just want you to be real honest about whether or not you think that you're ready for this purchase. And no word of a lie, he was like, you're absolutely right. Like, I'm not, like, he straight out was just like, I'm clearly I'm not, right? Because if I was, because I was like, you don't have the down payment now. He's like, oh, well, can I borrow it? And I'm like, from who? Like the guy at the casino that you are in debt to? Like, I'm like, who's gonna lend you the money now, right? Like you spent it, you blew it on the weekend, right? So now, does that conversation go well with every client? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that are abrasive about that. I venture into that conversation with somebody who has gambling debts or is potentially involved in an addiction capacity from that side. I don't know if I would do that conversation with everybody. This kid, I felt pretty comfortable having that chat with, but you also need to, I think, marry out where's the line and what's your responsibility to them, and what's your responsibility to your protecting your lender, right? Was that like a no answer? Really political, hey?
No, that was perfect. I just needed to feel validated about not feeling so bad that CIBC took them off my hands. Yeah, I didn't have to have that conversation, but that was the next step until he said, "Hey, sorry, I didn't get back to you. CIBC gave me a great offer, yada yada. We know how that goes."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, is the mortgage worth it? Sometimes, if maybe it's worth having the conversation, but a lot of times too, like we don't have to fund every deal. Not everybody, I don't want to be the person who watches my client foreclose on a house that they shouldn't have bought, right? Or be the one that put them into a loan that doesn't help them. So I don't know. Do we feel like we've covered that one there? I don't, you know, I feel like I just talked about that for way too long, actually.
No. Actually, Essie had a great comment on that. She said that she had a post approval decline today because of character issues. And it wasn't. Essie, do you want to speak on that or?
Yeah, so I had a file that was approved and we were working on the conditions and the lender called me and said they did a background check on my client and found charges. And it actually turns out that it's really a 1 in a million coincidence. There's a guy from the same town, born in the same year with the same first and last name, different middle name.
Oh my God.
We could not prove without a shadow of a doubt that it was not my client's. We got criminal record check. There was a possible match because of the first and last name. We got T4s, marriage certificates, birth certificates, everything we possibly could. Lender still came back and said that because it was not 100% clear cut, they were standing out of the file. And that wasn't like, it wasn't even my client. It was a totally different person, but we couldn't prove it.
Yeah, wow, well, man, does that ever suck for the guy that for the genuine client, right? But there's a prime example, right? Like Googling, like just looking up, like, and not to say that Essie did anything wrong in there, but taking that extra step and Googling that and seeing that, you might have had the leg up to look that stuff up in advance and disclose that in your submission notes, where your lender doesn't feel like they are maybe trying to have something snuck through, right? Maybe if you're upfront about it in those submission notes, they might look at it and be like, okay, yeah, they're aware that there's this guy in their town, it's this, with the same name, and that this might be the situation. And so how, like, you know what I mean? They won't necessarily feel like you're trying to hide something, right?
Oh, it's 100% a lesson learned and a very crappy conversation to have with these folks. But anyway, yeah, it's a
Did
thing.
you get them approved at a different lender?
I can't. Location and its alternative. There was one lender who would go to that location. Deal's dead.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's tough, right? So yeah, so I guess to this point, right, character comes into play more than we know and more than we think. Your lenders behind the scenes are looking into your clients, right? They're looking at their social media, they're looking at their Instagram, they're checking out, they want to see what they're like, right? They want to see who they're giving hundreds of thousands of dollars to. Especially with all of this AML stuff too, right? They want to make sure who are they affiliated with, what kind of posts are they doing, right? So
100%. I think that to sum that up, it's essentially look at all the things that the lender is going to look at. So try to take it from their perspective. And the first thing they're going to do is Google that client. So why not get ahead of it, right? Look at their social medias. That's easy. That only takes, you know, what, a couple minutes to do. And you can really like save, and in the end, save a file through that.
Yeah. And I think too, like we spend so much time getting caught up in the paperwork and the numbers that we don't really think about our clients. It can be really easy, especially if you're math brain oriented or you're a numbers person, right? It can be really, really easy to compartmentalize your client from their application. So we look at their application as, numbers, percentages, ratios, dollar amounts, right? But we need to keep in mind that lending is not just, do they fit the qualifications? Yes, no, it is the person as a borrower as well is a massive piece of the application, right? So we have to be, diligent on the number side, right? We've got to be mathy and number based and, all the ratios and all that good stuff, right? But we also want to look at our client as a person and just make sure that overall we're lending to the right kind of person. And I think that is going to be more prevalent now. I think you're going to see a lot, especially with, like I say, the AML and the fraud and stuff like that that's coming out. I think we are going to see lenders are spending a little bit more time looking into the client to see who they are as a person. So a good trick or tip, I guess, to add to your, this is totally going to segue because I think question number 2 is about intake calls, isn't it?
It is, but I was thinking of skipping on and saying, is there any other red flags that you would commonly look out for, or what, did you already cover that?
Oh, red flags and on a file, on an application. Oh yeah, I mean, we could list off 100 red flags here, right? Do they need it in a rush? The purchase contract was signed 3 months ago and closing is in a week, and now they're coming to you. Red flag. Purchase contract was signed last week with an unconditional offer and funding is next week. Red flag, right? The realtor is reaching out to you, not the client. The realtor wants, or the financial planner or the accountant, they want to work with you on behalf of the client. The realtor sent you their docs package, not the client themselves. I had a file where the realtor, it's kind of funny, but he, one of his employees, so he was also doing property management, and one of his employees, which was one of the building managers, what was going to buy a property, and he wouldn't even give me your phone number, and I was like, I cannot proceed with this application without speaking to the actual applicant. And so I get the phone number, I call the client. She doesn't really know what's kind of going. She's like, yeah, I mean, we're going to buy this place. I don't really, or whatever. She didn't really know what was sort of going on. I was like, I need these documents. I need you to send them to me. She had the realtor send them to me. And the house was a tear down, like it was a disaster. It was a foreclosure purchase. There was no appliances. There was holes in the walls. They were obviously trying to buy this as a flip, and she was trying to do this with 5% down as a first time buyer, claiming this was going to be her first home, type of thing. And in the long run, I did not do this mortgage. And about 6 months later, that realtor lost his license in both real estate and property management. So from a RICA investigation. So it was kind of and I was fairly new into the biz. I feel like I probably complained about this file to Karen at the time. Hi, Pacheco. And Karen was my mentor, in case anyone's curious, when I started. So if you ever want to ask questions to the mentor's mentor or whatever, she's like the boss mentor. But yeah, it was a bit, it was dodgy and it was questionable, and I didn't really get it, and didn't understand what was going on. Couldn't speak to the client really about anything. They didn't really know what was going on. All red flags, right? If something seems too good to be true, if they don't answer your questions directly, right? We have a file right now in our team where we're trying to get clarity from the client on like what's happening and how, where is this money coming from? What are you doing? Like, and every time we ask the client a question, like the story changes. they're obviously not being honest with you about something. Those are all, yeah, red flags, red flags, red flags, red flags. You could apply all of these same red flags to dating, I think, as well, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, would you date this person? Probably not. So would we give them a mortgage? Would you lend them money? I don't know, right? Yeah, there's a lot of things that should tip it off. I think ultimately, if you're like having a conversation with a client, and if you have to phone a friend and say something about this file just seems weird, it is. Right? You trust your instinct and trust your gut. If you think something is fishy, you think something sounds weird, you think that the story doesn't make sense, you're the one that's having those interactions with the person. If you think that the file is weird and something doesn't really make sense, then it doesn't, right? And pass on that. And it might be legit and they might get an approval with another broker, or maybe it's not legit and they get an approval somewhere else. Do you want to be the one that puts your license at risk processing a file for somebody when you have a funny feeling in your stomach and you just don't know if it's right? And I think for those of you on the call that are newer, it can be tough in the beginning because you're like, every deal counts. I need every dollar. Like, okay, listen, getting a $3,000 commission check or whatever on a deal that you felt weird about doesn't give you the lifetime of income. Like, would you sacrifice making $100, $200, $300,000 a year at this job for the next 30 years for that $3,000? Probably not, right? So it's just not worth it, right? So if it feels weird, if the whole story doesn't make sense, if you're like needing to phone a friend to be like, does this make sense to you? Like, I'm asking for this, they're sending that, they're not, whatever, this isn't clear, we had, even just little things like how fast turnaround time are they sending you docs? We had an agent in the team last week where they had an outdated job letter and they asked the client for an updated job letter, and the client sent the updated job letter with a new date in a different font 5 minutes later. They just took the job letter, they scratched out the date, they put a new date on it, and they sent it back to the broker. Yeah, like, are your spidey senses tingling, right? It should take longer than 5 minutes to get a new job letter from the client's employer, right? So yeah, do these things feel weird? And if so, just back away, because the longevity of your career, is worth more than saying yes to files that you shouldn't be funding, right? And like travels with like, if you're working on those deals that are weird and you don't get it and the clients don't explain things, and you fund a deal for that client, they're going to refer you to their friends, and their friends are also weird and dodgy. And, and like, is that the kind of business that you want to be working on? No, man. Get that stuff out the door. Don't make yourself available to that weird stuff, right? And green flags all the way.
I love that, green flags all the way. Where there's smoke, there's fire usually. So just try to go off maybe the amount of obviousness. And I like what you said, if it feels uncomfortable, then it probably is. Like, if your gut is sensing something, and if you quantify it to, maybe 3,000, whatever it is in commission compared to 100, 200, whatever it might be, you're gonna earn a year in the lifetime of your career, maybe not worth it.
Yeah. Think about the lifetime of your career,
Yeah.
whether that's worth it or not, right? So
Yeah, let's then segue.
Never mind the fines,
Right.
and the public embarrassment, which is also,
That's true. Yeah. Do you want your name associated with that, right?
Well,
I think now is a good time to segue into that question number 2, which is your initial intake process. So how do you set up your first meetings with clients? Are you giving them the online application to fill in? Are you doing a phone meeting, Zoom? Like, how do you prefer to go about that?
Okay, so I'm a dinosaur. So those of you on the call who are like super, super techie, you're gonna hate when I say, I do a phone call. I do not send an online application to my clients. I send them a homework list of documents to send me. I'll send out a link or whatever to upload their docs. I build out their application from the information that they send on that's in their documents. So I'm a little bit dinosaur like in that regard, but I've made that decision for a couple of reasons. there's like 100 of you here, so obviously, it's because I'm really good on the phone, right? Like I'm a good talker, so I like doing the intake call or the intake of a client first. I like to get them on the phone because I can sell, I can talk, I like talking to people, and I win clients over in an intake call. And I've had a lot of times where a client has said to me, I really appreciate that you're taking this call with me before I send you an application, because I don't want to bother sending you an application if I'm not going to qualify, or if you don't think I have hope, or I talked to 3 other brokers, they wouldn't even speak to me without me sending all of my documents and an application in, right? And so I like to be that person that takes that phone call, and I'll spend 20 minutes, sometimes half an hour on the call with the client. I'll answer their questions. I'll determine whether or not this is actually worth my time, whether I do think that they're actually going to qualify, right? If they call me and they're like, we want to buy a mobile home, it's 50K. I'm like, sounds like it's in a trailer park. They're like, it is. And then I'm like, I have a great person at the bank that I'm going to refer you to because I can't do those, right? So that eliminates me sending them a link, getting an application, going through it, pre-approving them, calling them back just to have them say, well, I want to buy this trailer in a trailer park, right? So I do that intake call first. I want to wow them. I want to impress them. I want to win them over with my wit and my charm and how funny I am on the phone. And then I can't get rid of them later when they're total losers and I don't want to talk to them anymore, right? I'm just kidding. That part's going to get edited out of this podcast, isn't it? Yeah? No. I kid. But no, truthfully, I do the first thing is the phone intake call. Then I send them their homework list of documents to fire into me. Then I build out the application. We do the pre-approval. Then I talk to them about numbers. So once I've got all of their documentation, that's when I'm actually going to talk to them about their pre-approval amount, fixed versus variable, down payment amounts, which type of product we're going to place them into. And if they have a live offer, that's when we're going to be submitting. We're going to talk about lenders. I actually discuss the lenders and the choices with the clients before I submit to a lender. I like my clients to choose with me which lender they want their mortgage to be at. And another reason for this is because I don't then tend to lose clients after I have a commitment where they take that commitment and they go and call somebody else or shop it around. If I've gone through that phone call with them where I say, okay, so Scotiabank's doing this, TD's doing that, MCAP's got this rate, First Nat has this, and we pick that product and we pick that lender together. When we get an approval for that product with that lender, the client's happy. They picked it. They chose that, right? And they tend to be satisfied and happy with that approval that they've gotten. They don't tend to then go out and shop around or ask for second opinions. So that's a big part of my process as well. It's just making sure that we're making those decisions together. If the clients don't qualify anywhere but one lender, I'm going to tell them that. I'm going to say, listen, I wish we had more options, but here's why you don't qualify. Here's the lender that you do qualify with. I'm going to fire it in there and we're going to hope for an approval, right?
Okay, so that segues into our next question, I think, in terms of how do you like to communicate with your clients? Some brokers, they're good with, if you want to text me this, send me this doc, however you prefer. Or do you prefer most of it to go over the phone, in person, on email?
Well, I like doing phone calls with my clients, as I, state there, because I'm good on the phone, right? I feel like that's a win for me. I suck at texting. Like, ask anybody from my team that's on this call how bad I am at replying to texts efficiently. So I suck at texting. I do have some clients that want to text me. I try to answer their questions in email. I might say, oh yeah, cool, perfect, let's book a call for that or whatever. But if they're sending me a bunch of questions about numbers and stuff like that, then I'm going to go back to, I'll send you an email and I'll send an email on that stuff. We want to make sure that we have a paper trail, right? And text messages are not the greatest paper trail, especially if you are dealing like alternative lending, private lending, that kind of stuff, right? We want to make sure that we are that we've got that, formally documented, that we've got that paper trail of emails that we can keep for those deals. So I like to defer away from text, unless it's the like, hey, are you guys free tonight for a chat? Okay, perfect, I'll call you then. Or, the memes that I send them when we, are approved or they've, they're closing on their deal, right? The congratulation house memes and things like that, right? So, but otherwise, yeah, I like to keep things to phone calls and emails. I don't even do Zooms. Like, I know there's a lot of brokers who will set up an in-person, like, well, in person, but like a Zoom meeting for each of their clients. They'll set those up as appointments. I think I've only met 3 clients on a Zoom meeting. I mean, that's usually because I don't do my hair nor look this good most days. So it takes a lot to get me Zoom ready. So yeah, I don't even do Zooms with my clients. I just I like to do things over the phone. Yeah, and keeping it to email.
We have a great question from Dana. Sorry if I mispronounced that.
Oh, from Dana, yeah.
Here. How do you manage having over 5 files with funding conditions while still prospecting?
Well, 5 that's a good number to be working on at any one time. That's great. Definitely there are points in the year, like you know, I think, you know, at this time of year we usually have over 20 deals on the go at any given time. Managing prospecting, this is actually, I love that you brought this topic up, because I think it's one of the things that I see a lot with agents where they fall down, or where they fail, or where we don't keep consistency in this business, right? So let me lay out an example for everybody, and then everyone this sounds familiar to can go, oh, she's personally attacking me right now. Okay, so we start off and all we're doing is prospecting, and we're picking up the phone and we're going out trying to get business. And then we get those files start coming in. And in the beginning, we've got a nice sort of a balance, because we only have a handful of files that we're working on. And so we're still trying to get more, right? We're still doing that prospecting. We're still trying to build that business. But we might have 1 or 2 deals on the go. Then we start to get more and more deals on the go, right? So we're working on 5, 10 files, and we think that we're super, super overwhelmed. So we drop all of the prospecting because we're just working on these files now, right? And this is the difference. There's a phrase out there that you might hear of sometimes when they say, you're talking about working on your business, versus working in your business, right? So now we're just working in the business. We're working on files, but we're not picking up the phone. We're not trying to make those calls, and we're not trying to bring in any more business. Then what happens is we get these files done. They're all broker complete and they're waiting to close. And now we're standing around twiddling our thumbs because we have no more files in, because we didn't do any prospecting while we were working on those files, right? Sound familiar? And then this is where the roller coaster comes into play. So now we go back into, okay, prospecting mode. So now for the next few months, I'm going to work really hard to get more leads again. And then those leads are going to come in, and I'm going to drop the ball on that. And now I'm just going to work on these files. And then we do it all over again, right? I usually say in this business that it's about a 3-month lag time on prospecting, right? The work that you guys are doing today is going to pay off for you, you know, in June and July, right? It's going to take a little bit of time for us to get those leads in and to get work on that, right? So if it's December, you're slow in December and you're prospecting in December, you're going to be pretty busy in February and March, right? If you drop prospecting in February and March, you're going to be pretty dead and slow, you know, in June and July, right? May, June, and July, right? So I think that it's really important to consistently maybe time block out in your calendar for prospecting time, and keep in mind that that is just as important piece of your business. Now, the other part of this that comes into play when you're working on those files is efficiency, and working out how much time do you actually spend on one of those files. Now, 5 files on your desk at one time. I'm going to shock you with some numbers. How many hours do you guys think to get one of those files across the finish line from start to finish, including intake call, you know, options call before submission, commitment signing, underwriting time, back and forth with the lender? How many hours of total time do you think it takes to get one of those files done? Tina's saying 4 hours. Lucia says it depends on how complicated the file is. How many of you guys feel like it takes 20 to 30 hours for a deal? It feels like that. It is 4 to 8 hours. The actual amount of time that you are spending on an individual file is only 4 to 8 hours. So if, let's say, an average of 6, if you've got 5 files on your desk right now, that's 30 hours of total time from start to finish. Now, not all of that is in 1 week, right? You might have that spread over 3 or 4 weeks. you've only got 30 hours of actual working time into those files in a 3 or 4 week period of time to close those 5 deals. So where's the other time, right? If you've got a 40-hour work week, if you're doing this, full time, you've got 160 hours. So where's the other 130 hours that month that you're spending on prospecting, but your mind is super distracted working on those 5 deals, right? So yeah, Krista says some files seem like a month. I think this is the thing. You might feel like it's a month. You've been working with these clients for months. You've got a phone call every day with them for 10 minutes. You're like, God, I've been working with this client forever. But when you add up the 10 minutes here and the 10 minutes there, right? How many 10-minute phone calls do you have to have with that client, during that fulfillment stage or whatever to add up to an hour, right? That's 6 calls, right? Or how many, I think that one of the things that brokers are really good at is just sort of maybe catastrophizing what we're working on, or exaggerating, or thinking that we are spending more time in that file or in that work than what we're actually doing. And then we forget about everything else because we just want to focus on that. I don't know if that answered your question, Dana.
I think that does. Another thing I would add in there is using a CRM system or something like along those lines, because it's not, we're all human, and human error is inevitable, and having to remember every single date in a mortgage process, and the follow-up, and the mortgage anniversaries, and dripping for maturity, that's a lot of dates to remind yourself of and remember. So why not kick in a CRM system that can do that on your behalf, and essentially drip to those clients to remind them of those dates, to send things on your behalf, so that you can take as much of that off of your plate and clear as much headspace as possible, but still seem and be, in your client's eyes, super on top of it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Actually, yeah, I missed that, but yeah, I have that in the background that's running along, right? Like, that's a great way for keeping in touch with your existing clients. I guess, for me, that's sort of just, client retention. Prospecting for new, that can come from making phone calls and getting new referral partners and things like that. But part of that can actually just be phoning your existing clients and asking them questions, right? How are you guys doing? Just checking in. How's the mortgage going for you guys? Perfect. Love the house. Perfect. I just wanted to check in, make sure everything was going well with you. Now you're top of mind. And that's, when they're talking to their friends next week, and they're thinking about referring you, right? So, but yeah, there are lots of things that you can automate in the background. Your social media, you can automate. You can have an AI program make all your posts for the year. You could set it up in a calendar, and you never have to actually do it yourself. You just have it all set at the beginning of the year, and it does it for you every week, or a few times a week, right? You can have your CRM doing all of that stuff for you. And now your time, which is the most valuable piece, is intentional, right? You can use your time to intentionally make connections with people that might be referral sources, centers of influence, picking up the phone, calling your database, mining that database for other opportunities, and prospecting from that perspective, right? And it just means that you are a lot more in tune with what is your time worth, and what are you doing in that time. And then I know a lot of agents, they time block. They'll block out, like, okay, from 9 till noon every day, I'm prospecting. I'm for me, I wouldn't do it in the morning because I'm not a morning person. So my mornings would be quiet, math, underwriting. I'm going to work on a deal in the morning, right? The afternoon would probably be where I'm like, okay, now I'm going to pick up the phone and call people because I've had some time to work into it. What does that look like for you, right? Pick out what's the time of the day. When are you most productive from a work, a file related or a working perspective? And when are you most productive from a chatting with people and putting yourself out there perspective? And then block that time in your calendar. So nobody's booking a call with you, at 10 a.m. if you block out from 9 till 11 every day for you picking up the phone and calling other people, right?
Yeah, time blocking is, I think, the secret of some of the most high performing people in this industry. Time blocking,
Yeah.
and also being able to delegate.
Yeah, passing off, like I say, like I like doing my own social media posts, you know, because like I liked that part of the job. Is it the best use of my time? Not at all, right? Not at all.
So then how do you personally market yourself? Are you mostly referral based, or what's your preferred method?
Yeah, so my business is entirely referral based. I do not spend any money on marketing whatsoever. I think in the first 6 months that I was in the biz, I probably spent like $100 on a Facebook ad, and then immediately was like, well, I just flushed that $100, and I realized how quickly that could just, you know, get carried away, and that you're just sort of throwing money, you know, good money after bad. I was very you know, fortunate that one of my previous roles before I got into mortgages, when I was younger, was actually working for a tourism company, and I managed the marketing budget for this tourism company. It was a multi-million-dollar horseback riding operation out of Banff, and I did all kinds of marketing, everything from a 12-part television series, arranging that, to travel, you know, travel writers, celebrity travel writers and things like that, coming out, to wrapping a sea train in Calgary with imagery, to magazines, and things like that. So I had to manage this advertising budget, come up with these different ideas, and then track that return on investment for what we were doing, right? Were we getting enough, you know, were we getting enough business in from these initiatives, and what were we dropping the next year, and things like that. So I was very fortunate when I came into brokering that I did have a bit of a background in marketing. And I'll tell you, marketing on a financial, on the, you know, on a brokering relationship, this is a whole lot different than marketing for a tourism company to people who have never heard of you before, right? But boy, is it a lot cheaper. So yeah, so in the last, you know, 7 years or whatever it's been, or 8 years that I've been licensed, I've spent $100 on marketing. Now, I will say that's not including some gift baskets that I've sent to some of my realtor partners at Christmas time, right? But yeah, I don't pay for any print ads. I haven't paid for any Google ads, any Facebook, you know, marketing, any of that kind of stuff, since that first $100. So everything for me has been building connections with people. And again, you know, like I say, I think I'm good on the phone. I get on the phone with people, I connect with people, and that has been one of the biggest sources of business for me. I would say the other piece too is the things that you can do that are free, right? I didn't have a lot of money that I could spend on marketing. I didn't have the nice big budget that I used to have, right? So I had to find other ways that were creative that I could spend my time to get that business, without dumping money into it, right? So one of the things that I did in the very beginning was, there's a Facebook group that I'm a part of, for oilfield wives in Alberta, and I was an oilfield wife at the time, and so I was in this Facebook group, and people would ask questions of all kinds of, and women are in particular. Sorry to the gents on the call, the women, we trust each other. Women are great for this. And so they would ask all kinds of questions. They'd ask about credit scores, you know, how credit cards work, loans, auto financing, mortgages, interest rates, the whole 9 yards. I would answer everybody's questions with detailed answers. I was not the person who was like, oh, I'll DM you. I was the person that if they asked a public question, I answered it publicly, and I would put all that information in a response to them. And there might have been 5 other mortgage brokers there who would say, oh, DM me. And then they would reach out to me because I was the one that actually answered their question. And that was the same for community groups. I was in some Facebook groups for some community, you know, some neighborhoods and stuff here in the Edmonton area. And there'd be like 30 brokers that were like, oh, I'm a broker, DM me. Or a realtor would be like, oh, I have a guy, you know, or whatever. And they're all like, DM, DM, DM. And then I would like post the answer. And out of like 30 replies, they'd reach out to me because I was the one that actually answered the question, right? So don't be afraid to give out information. You know, if they're asking publicly, answer them publicly, give them the information, right? And that built up a name. So with some of these Facebook groups that I was in, I started to build a name for myself as the person who knew the answers and who would answer them. And so now, whenever anybody asks a mortgage question in these Facebook groups, I get tagged by about 30 different people because they're like, oh, this is the person who will answer you. And so from that, you know, I know in 2021, from that one Facebook group, I closed 32 files out of just one Facebook group. And that was just from answering people's questions. So free. I used to joke that I did a lot of business from my bathtub at night. So I'd pour a nice hot bath, I'd get in the tub, I'd have my phone, I'd scroll through the Facebook groups, I'd answer everybody's questions. And yeah, so absolutely free, takes a little bit of time, but what was I doing anyway besides bathing?
I love that. So it's all organic, really. And as we've seen on the newbie Facebook group, you're incredible at that. You know, your response time, your diligence, you're just so willing and open to help answer questions. And, you know, as a result of that, you get the business. You're not asking for the business, you're offering your help, right? Which is sometimes the best sales strategy, is offering your help and your expertise. And then through that, the business just comes naturally.
Yeah, I'm not gonna, some of you might have had your mortgage newbie page questions answered from the bath as well. So not to make that awkward or anything for you.
No, we love that. I think you posted once with like a cheeseburger in the bath and you're like hard at work.
Yeah.
You actually were. Okay, next question. What are some of the biggest challenges or trends you've witnessed in mortgage underwriting today?
In underwriting or just in brokering in general?
I'll let you decide.
Okay, well, we'll talk about everything right over here. But in underwriting, I think probably one of the biggest things that I notice, because I do review a lot of files for the team and stuff like that, right? So I think one of the biggest things that I notice is data integrity being an issue, right? So, you know, clients worked at their employer for 2 years and 9 months, and so the broker puts 3 years because they need a 3-year job history instead of asking where they worked prior, right? Or not checking things like what's the address history on the credit bureau and does it match the address history that you're putting into the application? Is their name spelled right? You know, like, and it might all seem really silly, like these are stupid things, you know, is the birthday the right way around? You know, did you get the month and the year mixed up? I don't know how many times I've looked at a credit bureau where it's like birthday is incorrect on the credit bureau. Now you're going to get a condition from your lender to prove that who they are, like which birthday is correct, because they wrote the wrong birthday from the ID in into the application, right? So I don't like the word laziness, but like I've used that word a lot when I describe this, is it's kind of lazy, right? Like we don't have a lot to do in this job for the amount of money that we actually get paid. When you think about one of those deals taking an average of 4 to 8 hours in total from start to finish, including compliance, right? 4 to 8 hours worth of time on average. And the average commissions on these deals for most people on this call are a lot more than me, because I live in the hood and I just do tiny mortgages all the time, right? But the average commissions on these deals is like, I'm gonna, what should we say, $3,000, right? If we're taking 8 hours on a file, $3,000 commission, it's $375 an hour that you're getting paid. That's a heck of a lot of money for that hour for you to spell your client's name wrong or not confirm their birthday, right? Like when a lender is giving us a large amount of money to bring them a file and it is our job to read the pay stub, to work out, are they trending? Is their income trending? Are there 2 names on this bank account? Who's the other person's name on the bank account? Are there large deposits into the bank account that we need to source? It is not your underwriter's job or the doc fulfillment at the lender's job to tell you that they need a source for a 10K deposit into their checking account last week, right? It's your job to look at that stuff and to see that. So I think that's something that I would say that I see a lot of, is just that I think there is, you know, for the amount that we're getting paid per hour, even if you were spending, I see Lucia says I take way longer than that. Even if you were getting paid, even if it was taking you 20 hours, if you're getting paid more than $50 an hour to do this job on a file, that's still a lot of money that a lender is paying you to spell your client's name right, and to check their credit bureau thoroughly, and to have the right address history on their credit bureau, on their application, right? and to ask where they worked at that job prior and to get that information and to make sure that the NOAs have their name on them and that the T4s have their name on them and that the bank statement has their name on it, right? Like that's your job. So that would be something that I do see a lot of. I think a lot of people spend too much time getting the file and then they rush to put the file together. And the other part that I've said this a few times to that, there are no awards in this business for the fastest commitment, right? There's no awards for like, oh, I got 37 commitments, but only 3 of them funded. If you have the wrong information in the application and you don't have all of the docs up front and you haven't fully adjudicated that file, it doesn't matter that you get a commitment if the lender pulls it when they review the docs, right? So take the time, like put the effort in and take the time and make sure that you have the right documents, that you have gone through that application, you know, all of your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. And then when you get a commitment, you're more likely to be able to meet the conditions and you're more likely to be able to actually close on it and get paid. And that you'll have picked the right lender for the file the first time around as well. So I would say that's probably one that I see a lot from that side. The other thing that I think I see a lot in the brokering, just in brokering in general, and where I see most people fail, so I'll maybe bring that one up, is from a coaching side or a mentorship side. I used to get where people would say to me, I'm doing all of the things, but I'm not getting any business. And a lot of times we feel like we're doing all the things and then nothing is paying off, right? And so, you know, in the past, I used to sit down and be like, okay, well, tell me what you're doing. Let's work through this. Here's some ideas. Let's brainstorm some new suggestions. And then I'll follow up with you in a week. And then a week would go by and I'd follow up and they hadn't done any of the things, right? And then so I would get super frustrated. I changed how I approach those conversations, and I'd say, okay, tell me all of the things you did this week to get business. And when I made brokers actually write out all of the things that they had done that week to generate business, and then I said, okay, time it. How much time did it take you to do that social media post and do that blog post and those 3 phone calls that you made this week? How much time did that take? When I made them write all of that stuff out and actually look at how much time they were spending on building their business, it was usually less than 4 hours a week. So in their head, they were like, I'm doing all the things. I'm calling people, I'm doing social media posts, I'm talking to my neighbors, I sent out an email, how much time did all of those things take you? You have a big work week that you can fill with income generating ideas, right? That especially when you don't have business. So that is something that I would say that I see a lot of is brokers sort of making excuses for themselves or saying that they're busy. Like I'll bring up Karen again for this one. I remember when I first started and I had about 3 or 4 deals on the go, and we had a meeting with a lender in person at the office. And I remember going to that meeting and I was on my phone and I'm listening to the lender's presentation and I was responding to somebody's text, and Karen totally called me out and she was like, you're here, like, I can't remember exactly what she said, but it was something like, are you here to pay attention or whatever, right? Something like she should say to me. And I was like, oh, I'm just so busy. And she said, we're all busy. And that moment, like that was a really big light bulb moment for me, because I was like, oh, like I'm so busy. Oh, like I'm so important, because I had like 3 or 4 deals. And yet the people that I was working with, like Karen probably had 20 deals on her desk that day. And she made time for that meeting and was present for that meeting. And here I was with like 3 or 4 deals thinking that I was like, hot shit or something. And I was just so overwhelmed or so busy because I didn't have the processes in place to like plan my time. Right. And I didn't I wasn't organized. I wasn't there yet. And so I felt like I was busy and I was, and I was, maybe more important than I am. And I'll say the people that show up consistently for training, we've got agents on our team that are doing 200-300 deals a year. They're on training at all of the training calls. They make time for it. They prioritize it. Their schedules are tuned in. We've got agents on our team. They're volunteering. They've got 1 million children. they've got events that they're going to, they've got charities that they're fundraising for, they've got all of this other stuff on the go, and they're closing 200 plus files a year, and they're not too busy to show up, right? Or they're not too busy to be present. So I think if you're running around and you've got to drop the kids off in the morning and then you got to pick them up at 3 every day, and you've got soccer in the evenings or whatever, and you know that you have this like limited window of time that you can work at, don't distract yourself with all of the other like that's not your time for getting groceries and doing laundry. If it is, time block that space out, but you need to be really, really intentional with the time that you have to be able to manage that and grow. So I think I hear that a lot where agents are like, oh, but life, and I'm like, you spent 4 hours this week trying to generate business, and the rest of your week you were doing all of the other things. How many hours of TV are you watching every night?
Right.
Like if you're doing all of these other things and you've got time to watch TV or whatever, and you only spent 4 hours trying to get business, don't come crying to me that you're not getting any deals, right? So was that mean? I feel like that was mean too. I know Karen posted in there that she was mean. Maybe I just learned really well from her on the mean front, but
No, it's not at all. I think it's maybe a hard truth. Tough love.
yeah. So I mean, when we talk about the challenges or the like what I see, like I see a lot of that, right? People who are just not really willing to put the time in, and then blame everything else around them as reasons or excuses for not really being able to put the time in.
100%. Yeah.
But you want to be a top producer, like this is your job. If you weren't doing this, if you weren't self-employed, like you would have a job, you would go to your job from 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 or whatever, you would still have time to pick up the kids, or you would arrange for someone else to do that, or somebody would be doing your laundry, or you would be doing your laundry in the evenings. There's a lot of things that you would figure out around going to that job. So why is it that when we become self-employed, we think, oh, like I'm so busy and I don't have time for my job, right? This is your job.
I have to condense everything to 8 hours a day, including laundry and stuff. And then after that, I'm done. Exactly. And it's tough when no one's, watching over you and your time is your own. And so it's easy to get sidetracked, and maybe a little bit of tough personal love is needed in there for, realizing, okay, how am I actually spending my time and what can I do to improve that?
Yeah, the only person that you're accountable to is yourself. So how accountable do you want to be to yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like in everything that you do, if you want to make this work, then wake up every day with the intention of making this work and working at this, right?
Yep.
It's not a get rich quick scheme,
It only works if you're working it.
Yeah, exactly. That's like any other job, right? So
that leads me to my next question, which is our second last. I know we're going a bit over time. Apologies, guys. But this has been a really great insight. So what skills to you are the most important to make for a successful mortgage broker or underwriter?
Efficiency. We talked about that time thing. You don't have the luxury of spending 25 hours underwriting a deal. You just don't. And if a file is that hard or that complicated or that difficult that you're phoning 30 different lenders and you're like, how much is that file worth? Saying no and fine tuning what you're working on, right? Especially if you are in a position where you are closing, 50 plus deals a year, you don't have the time to do all of the things and put that much time into a file, right? So efficiency, I think, is a really, really big one. Organization, I think, is a really big one. Documentation organization, your inbox, everything about how you run this business. If you're not organized, you can't work on more than a couple of files at a time, right? If you want to get to the point where you've got 20 deals on the go, you can't be saving documents willy-nilly to your hard drive, like to your desktop. You can't have an inbox that isn't organized, right? Where you just have like, okay, is there anybody on the call here? Now I am going to personally attack anybody. Who on the call has an inbox that says 10,652 unread emails in it? Anybody? Yeah, Leah, there you go. You cannot do this job if you do not have an organized inbox, right? Organized folder structure, like being like that, that's like end up on any given file. We might only work on that file from 4 to 6 hours, but on any given file, we've probably got 30 to 50 emails, right? Between FCT notices and your lender emails and your commitment and your signing documents and the client sending you an email and their documents. Like, if you don't have this stuff organized, sorted out, kept in clean places, like, how much time are you spending searching for an email, right? When your clients say something to you or a lender says something to you and you got to go back and look something up, and you are going through the search and then you're searching in Allmail and you don't know where these things are, like, how much, and then you're looking at all the emails that have come in on that and then you don't know which one. Like, if you're not organized to that, you're wasting time. That, all of that is just adding to the time that you're spending on the deal. And in this biz, right, it's all about getting the highest hourly pay that we can on each of those files, right? So yeah, organization, efficiency, I think are probably biggest key factors, especially from an underwriting perspective. And then, like, you gotta want to be this is a research job. If you want to underwrite, like, if you're just in this for sales, hire an underwriter. If you're just in it to do the sales piece, you want to win the clients and bring them in, but you do not want to spend any time researching, hire an underwriter for that, right? If you don't like doing paperwork or documents, hire somebody to do that. If you want to be an underwriter, if you like underwriting your files, you want to do full service for your clients, you got to know this is a research job 90% of the time. Like, yeah, a lot of our files, maybe the research is easy. It's like, who's got the lowest rate today on the 5-year variable and insured mortgage? Okay, that might be an easy research job. But a lot of this is like, okay, I need a combination of who's going to take this BFS income with no financial statements, but they pay themselves for a T4, so we can do, so that's fine. Anybody going to gross that up? No, okay, well, we qualify if I use the CCB income, but I need a lender that'll go to 15 years old, not 12 years old on the CCB income. Oh, and they have a rental property and we need a better offset on the existing rental. Like, this is a research job, right? You've got to have the patience to go through all of that if you want to underwrite files, because to find the right solutions and to call and to pick up the phone and call the lenders. The other one that I'll add to that, just on the picking up the phone, especially maybe for those of you that are in the younger generation, there's a few agents that I've had this with where I'm like, call your client and ask them this. And then they're like, I texted them. And I'm like, I said, call your client and ask them. She's like, no, I texted her. And I was just like, have they texted you back? No, call your client. It's been 24 hours. Pick up the phone and call your client. I'll text them again. I sent a follow-up text last night. No, like, pick up the phone and call people, right? And that's the same with our lenders. Like, when you're firing, like, oh, I emailed them. Do you know how many emails your BDM gets in a day, or how many emails your underwriter gets in a day? Like, build relationships with people, pick up the phone and call them, and build relationships with your underwriters, with your lenders. Like, the time it takes to make that phone call and have that quick answer and get that out of the way and build rapport with that person is so, like, it's so much more efficient than firing off an email and waiting 3 days to hear back from them, right? So and what's the priority? How are they prioritizing that email that comes in when they have 200 other emails asking similar questions? Pick up the phone, right? Do not be afraid of your phone in this biz. So yeah, I don't know, how's that? I'm just talking a ton here about all of it. We're 10 minutes past time, whatever. You want to make it an hour and a half podcast? You're going to edit a whole bunch out in the middle where I said dumb stuff, right?
No, that was perfect. But I'm gonna jump right into the last question so that we can let everyone get on with their days. Last question: how do you stay updated on changes in regulations and industry standards? How do you recommend that?
Clearly I read too many emails. Read the emails. Like, ultimately, at the end of the day, that everything that you need to know is going to come to your inbox from somebody. It's going to come to your inbox from Canadian Mortgage Trends magazine. You're going to get which is from MPC, is the CMT magazine. So that they send out a newsletter every day with the main housing related headlines, right? Read the news, like, read those headlines, read what's important relevant to your location. Your lenders, when there's a change, your lenders are going to email you. They're going to send you underwriting changes. you know, the other day I sent out an email to some agents with a change in an underwriting policy for a lender, and somebody wrote me back. They were like, "How do you get this?" And I was like, "This is literally, I literally just, it was from the lender. They just had it in the email that they sent to all of their clients, and I just read it. So I saw the change, screenshot it, and sent it over to you guys. Like, read the emails, right? They're telling you every day, they're telling you what's happening, and your inbox is full of them. And how many of us just like file them in our rate sheets emails and we just don't even look, right? So yeah, I like, you know, read what's coming to you, read what's being sent to you. And I think prioritizing it, because keeping in mind, um, this is also your job, right? Like, it's not, sure, reading the updates or whatever, underwriting changes, government changes or whatever, doesn't necessarily feel like an income generating activity to you, but it is a knowledge building opportunity for you. And it's potentially a social media opportunity for you, something that you can share, or that you can do a blog post on or whatever, right? This might be a marketing opportunity for you. But really, it's our job. It's our job to know what the new first time home buyer rules are around 30-year amortizations and how to qualify that, right? It's our job. So put some time and some effort. Maybe that's part of your time block. Maybe the first hour of your day from 8 till 9 is reading everything that comes in. That's kind of what I do. My first thing that I do in the morning, let's not pretend I'm at my desk at 8 a.m., but the first thing that I do in the morning is I go through all of the emails that have come in and I'm filing them as I'm reviewing them. So I'm looking for rate changes. I'm looking for, for those on my team, they'll notice, like, I will forward out an email when I'm like, whoa, guys, check out this rate over at XYZ. Like, did you guys notice this? Oh, did you see this announcement, this change or whatever, right? So I spend that first hour of the day just being up to date on what's happening.
Yeah, I think time blocking is a big part of that. And if you sign up for the MPC newsletter and the CMBA, whatever your province is, those are really good at sending you like daily, selections of going through all the noise and highlighting a few articles that are important to the industry and what we do. So that's probably a really good place to start, I'd say.
Yeah, and I see Lucia said, how do you find reading the MPC one? Well, I think it's great, but I'm also going to shamelessly plug because I write for them. So if you want to read something, I think I've had 5 months now that I've been writing for them. So yeah.
That's awesome. Good for you. I didn't know that. That's another one to add to the resume.
That's a volunteer one.
Oh,
I didn't have a broker facing blog, so they were like, would you like us to be your broker facing blog? And I was like, okay.
that's amazing. That's another one for us to check out then. Okay, guys, I know we're super over time and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So I'm just going to say thank you so much for coming out today, Jill. This was really informative. Very kind of you to let us into that giant brain of yours and give us some insight into your processes. And guys, if you haven't joined the Newbie Agent Mortgage Facebook group, it's a really good place to be, to ask all your questions and be amongst others in the industry, who are going through the same day-to-day as you. So really encourage you all to go and check that out. And yeah, this is now going to be available on Spotify and YouTube. So for any of those who want to kind of recatch up, it's going to be on Spotify in video and audio, just audio format. So if you want to listen on the go, get a quick summary while you're doing the dishes at night or working out or something.
In the bath.
In the bath, yeah, make sure to check
on the treadmill is a great time. Yeah,
exactly. It is just search the Mortgage Scoop, mortgage spelled MORTG, and we're also on Instagram too, where you can go to get updated on upcoming topics. Sometimes I post some really stupid memes that some people think are funny, including myself, and as well little quick summaries called The Teaspoon, a new series I'm introducing of 1-minute little clips from sessions like this, where you can just get a really good shortened bit of information within 60 seconds. Okay, thank you so much, guys. Huge thanks to Jill, and we can't wait to see what's next.